phone budget. Send it to her. Got a lot of iPads over there. Hold on. Film. I can do it online. I'll send it to her. That's fine, I'll give it to you. I'll send it to you.
מזמור לתודה, הריעו לאדוני כל הארץ, עבדו את אדוני בשמחה, בואו לפניו ברננה. דעו כי אדוני הוא אלוהים, הוא עשנו, ולא אנחנו, עמו וצאן מרעיתו. בואו שעריו בתודה, חצרותיו בתהילה, הודו לו ברכו שמו, כי טוב אדוני לעולם חסדו, והדור והדור אמונתו.
שמר אחים שרה רבקה, רחל ולאה, ומרים הנביאה ואביגיל ואסתר המלכה בת אביחיל. יברך הילדה הנעימה הזאת, ויקרא שמה בישראל ליאב בת אילנה נאוה ודניאל ברוך. ומזל טוב ושעת ברכה, זאת ליאב בת אילנה נאוה ודניאל ברוך, תגדל בבריאות, שלום ומנוחה. זכה את אביה ואת אמה, לראות בשמחתה ובחופתה, בנים ובנות אושר וכבוד. עוד ינובון בשיבה, שנים רעננים יהיו, אכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן. מזל טוב.
האלוהים אשר התהלכו אבותיי לפניו, אברהם ויצחק, האלוהים הרואה אותי מעודי עד היום הזה. המלאך הגואל אותי, המלאך הגואל אותי מכל רע, יברך את עמי הארץ, יקרא האל שמי. המלאך הגואל אותי, המלאך הגואל אותי מכל רע, יברך את עמי הארץ, יקרא האל שמי. בשם אבותיי, בשם אבותיי, אברהם ויצחק, ויגאל הרוב, ויגאל הרוב, בקרב הארץ.
אני אפתח בעברית, כי אני חושב שחשוב לדבר לפחות קצת בלשון הקודש בעיר הקודש. זוהי שעת ברכה, אני ועליזה מבורכים להיות פה עכשיו, יחד עם ילדינו וקהילתם. לידה של נכדה היא אירוע נפלא, ולידה תאומות היא פלא כפול. אני בטוח שאני מדבר גם עבור אשתי עליזה וגם עבור my machatenist Rella. כשאני אומר שאנחנו מודים לקדוש ברוך הוא על הזכות להיות פה בתחילת החיים של שתי בנות אלה. היום יום מלא אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר, ואנחנו כל כך מאושרים לחגוג איתכם. Now the English. It was an Eitrat Son, a propitious moment, when we had the privilege of being in the hospital with Ilana and Daniel, as Ilana gave birth to these two beautiful babies whom we are naming today. These girls were welcomed into a room that was Sahala v'Samecha, a room ringing with joyous cries. These children are named today, the week we read Parashat Tetzaveh. The parasha this week continues to address the details of the Mishkan. This week, not so much the construction of the Mishkan, but rather the roles of the Kohanim, and specifically the details of the clothing they were to wear when serving in the Mishkan. Kitzat Muzar, it's a little strange that the parasha spends so much time on the external garments of the Kohanim. Normally in Judaism, we don't focus so much on the exterior features of a person. We don't concentrate on the appearance of their clothes. We don't concentrate on what they wear, on the appearance of the person. Rather, we focus on the integrity and the purity that defines a person's soul and character. We are more concerned for the purity of the soul than for the cleanliness of the clothes. But there is an expression that I'm sure we've all heard, that clothes make the man. Or perhaps it's more appropriate to say today that clothes make the woman. These tiny girls were born into the world without any outer garments or possessions. Just two naked bodies squirming and crying b'simcha u'v'sason as they made the passage from the world of the womb into the room of the world. But from the moment of their birth, these two babies began the process of individuation that will continue throughout their lives. One was born first, the other was born second. One with blonde hair, the other with brown. One seemed pensive, the other was active. And today, the names that Ilana and Daniel give these children will further define them. Each name is an external garment that dresses each of these girls in the clothing of their individuality. As twins, part of their challenge in life will be not only to uncover their distinctiveness, but also to distinguish themselves from one another. But it is not only their names which will define them during their lives, it's also their parents who will shape who they will become. These girls have been born to parents who share a love of Torah, a passion for literature, and a respect for history. They have been born to parents who have chosen to build their lives in Eretz Yisrael, to raise their children in the homeland of the Jewish people. They have been born as sisters to their brother Matan, who so far has been very gentle and loving toward them. They have been born into two families, the Kershans and the Feldmans, who come from a lineage of study and learning and Ahavat Yisrael. And I know I speak for Eliza and also for Rella when I say how privileged we are to be here as grandparents during these weeks and to share the beginning of these girls' lives. And I know, Daniel, you will tell your children the stories about your father so they will know the full richness of their inheritance. And lastly, these children will be defined by their community. Aside from the time that Eliza and I have been able to spend with you, Ilana and Daniel, and with your children, it has been wonderful for us to meet so many of your friends, to come to know the personal and the professional communities of which you are a part. You will never have to raise your children alone because, indeed, there is a village of your friends here to support you. We have been touched, as I know both of you have been, by the overflowing good wishes of all your friends and colleagues, as well as by their concrete offers of help. We know your children will always be surrounded by an abundance of their peers. Theirs will never be the only stroller pushed through the streets of Jerusalem. Rather, they will be surrounded by the strollers of so many other children that fill the streets of this city. So these two girls, born naked into the world, have been already adorned in the garments of our tradition. We know these girls will grow up enveloped by the teachings of our text and by the music of our Masoret. Today you begin to dress and address them by their names. You wrap them in your love as their parents. You clothe them in the garments of their grandparents, your friends, and your community. You crown these girls with the adornment of their Jewish inheritance. May the garments that they will wear be like the garments of the ancient Kohanim, clothing lechavod u'letifaret. Hamalach hagoel oti mikol ra yivarech et hanarot. May your daughters always follow in the footsteps of the angels who will guide their lives. May they always be a blessing to their families and to their community. May God watch over them and protect them. And may God bless these girls so they will become an adornment and a crown l'kol am Yisrael.
Please join us. There's plenty of room in this space also, as we get ready for the naming of our second daughter. Please.
There's lots of room. Please come in.
הוא יברך את הילדה הנעימה הזאת, ויקרא שמה בישראל, תגל בת אילנה נאווה ודניאל ברוך, במזל טוב ובשעת ברכה, זאת תגל בת אילנה נאווה ודניאל ברוך, תגדל בבריאות שלום ומנוחה, ותזכה את אביה ואת אמה לראות בשמחתה ובחופתה, בבנים ובבנות אושר וכבוד. עוד ינובון בשיבה, דשנים ורעננים יהיו, וכן יהי רצון, ונאמר אמן.
אמן.
שמעה ותשמח ציון ותגרנה בנות יהודה, למען משפטך אדוני, כי אתה אדוני עליון על כל הארץ, מאוד נעלית על כל אלוהים. לסלוח לך זבח תודה על כל הטובות אשר גמרת עליי. עפפוני חבלים וצירים אחזוני, בצר לי קראתי אליך ותשמע מהיכלך קולי והיית בעוזרי. ריפאת לכל תחלואי, עטרתני חסד ורחמים, עד הנה עזרוני רחמך. אנא אל תקשני לנצח, כהל אלוהי וברך את אמתך, חזקני ואמצני אותי ואת אישי, ונגדל את הילדות אשר נולדו לנו ליראתך ולעבדך באמת וללכת אורח נשרים. שמור את הילדות הרכות בכל דרכיהן, כונן אותן דעה, בינה והשכל, ותן חלקן בתורתך, ותקדשנה את שמך הגדול, ותהיינה למשיבות נפש לנו בסביבתנו. ואני תפילתי לך אדוני עת רצון, אלוהים ברוב חסדך, ענני באמת ישעך.
שמך אלוהים כשרה רבקה רחל ולאה, יברכך אדוני וישמרך, יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונקה, יישא אדוני פניו אליך ויעשה לך שלום. שמך אלוהים כשרה רבקה רחל ולאה, יברכך אדוני וישמרך, יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונקה, יישא אדוני פניו אליך ויעשה לך שלום.
Our daughters were born last Thursday afternoon, and so I was still in the maternity ward on Shabbat Parshat Truma. As I do whenever I cannot make it to shul, I lay in the parsha aloud, this time while sitting in my hospital bed with the bassinets of our two daughters on either side of me. The hospital bassinets are essentially rectangular, transparent plastic cases containing mattresses resting on a cart with wheels, and so I could observe my daughters at all times. As newborns are wont, they lay with their hands above their heads, each one looking towards the other and hence facing me as well, as I taught them about the building of the Mishkan. I smiled when I came to the description of the two planks supporting the corners of the tabernacle, which are supposed to be to'amim, matching, a word I accidentally misread as te'omim, twins. But the pasuk that most resonated for me was the description of the kruvim on either side of the kaporet. V'hayu hakruvim porsei chenafayim lemala, sochachim b'chanfeihem al hakaporet, ufneihem ish el achiv, el hakaporet hiyu pnei hakruvim. As I watched my two angelic daughters face towards one another, with their arms swaying above their heads, I felt myself in that most holy of holy places between the Kruvim, where the divine presence communicated with the people of Israel. V'no'adti lecha sham, v'dibarti itcha me'al hakaporet miben shnei hakruvim, asher al aron ha'edut, et kol asher atzaveltcha el b'nei Yisrael. The space between the Kruvim was the point of contact between the divine and the human. For me, the experience of giving birth to our twin daughters also afforded rare and intimate access to the divine, the Borei Olam, the creator of all living things. As I lay in the hospital between my two daughters leaning Parshat Truma, I was reminded that the Mishkan offered a new way of meeting God in the world and a new avenue for religious expression, which are gifts that our daughters have already offered us as well. The Torah teaches that the faces of the Kruvim were turned toward one another. To my astonishment, this is also how Liav and Tagel sleep. Ever since we returned from the hospital, we have been placing them side by side in our pack-and-play crib. Regardless of how we position them, within a few moments, they always turn their heads towards one another. Sometimes one baby opens her eyes and peers intently at her sister. Other times they look into each other's eyes before sinking into sleep. But they are almost always facing each other, each somehow reassured and calmed by the presence of her sister. We can only hope that this is how they will go through the rest of their lives, turning to one another in friendship, support, reassurance, and love. The image of angelic presences speaks to me on another level as well. This past week, Daniel and I spent many intense hours trying to name our daughters. In so doing, we were reminded of a midrash about Jacob's struggle with the angel in Parshat Vayishlach. Jacob asked the angel his name, Hagida Nashmecha, and the angel responds, Lama zeh tish'al lishmi. The Midrash in Breshit Rabbah connects this verse to another encounter between a human and angel that appears in Sefer Shoftim. Shimshon's father Manoach asks the angel his wife has encountered for the angel's name, and the angel responds, Lama zeh tish'al lishmi v'hu peli. The Midrash explains that angels change their names based on the particular mission they are sent to accomplish at any given moment. And so I imagine that in choosing a name for our daughters, we are also, in some sense, charging them with the unique mission in the world. I have felt this past week that so long as our daughters were still unnamed, every mission remained open to them. I imagined thousands of winged angels hovering over us, each representing a different name we might choose, and each angel beating its wings in hopeful anticipation that perhaps that angel might be the one whose mission matches the name we choose for our child. This amassing of angelic presences may explain why the first week of a newborn's life is such a time of intense connection to an otherworldly realm. The moment our daughters are named, like the moment when the box with Schrodinger's cat is opened, all the angels fly off, leaving just two, one for each of our girls. Perhaps the two angels who remained were the same angels that accompanied the namesakes of each of our daughters, Daniel's father and my maternal grandmother. My Savta, Gila Rubin, for whom Tagel is named, was a vibrant, headstrong woman who grew up in Brooklyn but spent her entire adult life as the Rebbitzin at the Wanta Jewish Center on Long Island. Still, the place in the world where she was happiest was Yerushalayim, where she and my Zaidi spent many sabbaticals attending Parshat HaShavua Shiurim, just as Daniel and I love to do. Together they took their children on their first family trip here in June 1967, where Savta enjoyed showing off her biblical Hebrew in all the most modern context. Having grown up with Zionist, Hebraist parents and grandparents, Hebrew was in fact her first language. I was fortunate to share with her a love not just of Hebrew, but also of crossword puzzles and literary novels. I always knew which books were Savta's because she wrote in pen in the margin. I dared use only pencil. And because the pages were pervaded by her distinctive perfume, which I can still smell to this day, exactly 18 years and 1 week after her death. We hope Tagel will draw from her spirit and embody her strength, her vibrancy, her love of language and literature, and her attachment to the Jewish people.
My father, Chuck Feldman, Alav HaShalom, would have rejoiced at this simcha, and his absence, which we feel so keenly today, is all that impinges on this wonderful occasion. A consummate family man, he knew that every simcha must be celebrated to the fullest. Our girls are the first grandchildren born to the family since our Saba left us, and so it is appropriate that the first of our daughters, Liav, bears a name that pays tribute to his memory. Liav. To me, my father was a model of commitment to family, community, and Am Yisrael. A devoted physician, he was also a leader of the Jewish community in northern New Jersey, especially in the realm of Torah education. He was a trusted advisor whose empathy and concern for others made him beloved to so many. He was a wonderful, charming man, and he relished every moment with his family. As my mother, may she live ad 120, holds our beautiful Liav before us, we feel Dad's bracha upon us.